Maya's hands trembled as she held the worn leather journal. The date stared back at her. March 15, 2022. The night she almost died. The night a stranger saved her life. She looked across the penthouse at Richard, her contract husband of 10 months, sitting in his wheelchair by the window. 10 months earlier. So let me get this straight, Maya said, sitting across from Richard Luca in his lawyer's office. You want to pay me $200,000 to marry you for 1 year? Richard's expression didn't change. Yes. Why? Does it matter? Maya glanced at the eviction notice crumpled in her purse, at the medical bills that had followed her for 3 years like ghosts, at the life she'd been barely surviving. No, she said. I guess it doesn't. The lawyer slid papers across the desk. You'll live in Mr. Luca's penthouse, attend public events as his wife, manage the household staff. After 12 months, you receive the full payment and the marriage dissolves. What's the catch? Maya asked. Richard wheeled closer. No catch. I need a wife for business and social appearances. You need financial security. It's a fair trade. Nothing's ever fair. Then consider yourself lucky. His dark eyes held something she couldn't read. Pain, maybe, or loneliness. She signed. The penthouse was ridiculous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Marble everything. A library that could swallow her old studio apartment whole. Your room is down the hall, Richard said. Left side, mine's on the right. The nurse comes at 8, the housekeeper at 9. Okay. Maya? She turned. Thank you, he said quietly, for doing this. She nodded, uncomfortable with his sincerity. This was business. She couldn't forget that. The first week was awkward silence and careful distance. Richard worked from home, endless video calls with hospitals and research facilities. Maya learned he'd been a neurosurgeon before the accident, before the wheelchair became his world. What happened? She asked one morning over coffee. His jaw tightened. Car accident, 3 years ago. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was my choice. Before she could ask what he meant, he wheeled away. By month 3, something shifted. Richard started asking about her day, small questions, easy ones. She found herself answering honestly. I used to want to be a teacher, she admitted one night, before everything fell apart. What stopped you? She touched her side, where scars ran deep beneath her shirt. Medical bills, survival, life. Life has a way of derailing our plans, he said softly. Yeah. She studied him. Do you miss it? Surgery? His hands gripped the wheelchair arms. Every single day. The pain in his voice made her chest ache. Month 5 brought the charity gala. Maya wore a borrowed dress, diamond earrings Richard had insisted on. She felt like a fraud. Mr. Luca, so wonderful to see you, a woman in pearls cooed. Her eyes slid to Maya with barely concealed pity. And your wife, how charitable of you both. Richard's face hardened. Charitable? Well, you know, giving back despite your situation. Maya's hand found Richard's shoulder. My husband donates more to medical research than most people earn in a lifetime. His situation, as you call it, hasn't stopped him from doing more good than anyone in this room. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. The woman stammered an excuse and fled. In the car home, Richard was quiet. You didn't have to defend me, he finally said. Yes, I did. Their eyes met in the rearview mirror. Something unspoken passed between them. Month 8, 4 months left on the contract. Maya met with an apartment broker in secret. She'd saved almost enough. Soon she could start fresh. No debt, no obligations, no Richard. The thought felt heavier than it should. She returned to the penthouse to chaos. Richard's nurse had called in sick, and he was struggling to reach his medication from the shelf. Let me help, Maya said, rushing over. I've got it. Richard, stop. Just let me help. His shoulders sagged. She grabbed the pills, poured water, waited while he took them. Thank you, he whispered. Why did you send the backup nurse home? Because I'm tired of being helpless. I'm tired of needing people. Maya knelt beside the wheelchair. Needing people isn't weakness, isn't it? His voice cracked. I used to save lives. Now I can't even reach a shelf. You're still here. You're still fighting. That's not nothing. He looked at her like she'd said something profound. You sound like you understand. Maybe I do. That night, she told him about the accident. The night 3 years ago when she'd collapsed on an empty street, bleeding internally from a ruptured spleen. How she'd woken up in a hospital, alone, with no memory of how she got there. They said a good Samaritan found me, she said. Rushed me to the ER. The doctor said another 10 minutes and I would have died. Richard's face went pale. Did they ever tell you who? No, he disappeared before anyone could thank him. He turned away quickly. Some people don't want thanks. Month 10, Richard had physical therapy. Maya decided to clean his study as a surprise. She was shelving books when her elbow knocked a stack over. A leather journal tumbled out, falling open. March 15, 2022, 11:47 p.m. Her blood went cold. That was her accident date. She shouldn't read it. She knew she shouldn't. She read anyway. Found a young woman collapsed on Morrison Street. Massive internal bleeding. No ID. No phone. Rush hour traffic was murder, but I couldn't wait for an ambulance. Put her in my car. Drove like hell. Maya's hands shook. The storm made the roads treacherous. I knew I should slow down. But she was dying. Every second mattered. Lost control on the bridge. Hydroplaned. The impact, the entry ended there. The next one was dated 2 weeks later, written in shaky handwriting. The doctors say I'll never walk again. Severed spine. My career is over. Everything I worked for, gone. But she lived. The Jane Doe from Morrison Street survived her surgery. That's all that matters. I don't regret it. I never will. Maya couldn't breathe. Morrison Street, that's where she'd collapsed. March 15th, the same night. She tore through her purse, found her old hospital discharge papers. St. Catherine's Hospital. March 15th, 2022, 11:58 p.m. admission. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She flipped through more entries. Richard describing his recovery, his depression, his research into the woman he'd saved. February 2024. Found her. Maya Santos. Drowning in medical debt from the very surgery that saved her life. The irony is crushing. She's struggling, working 3 jobs, about to be evicted. All because I saved her. I have to fix this. I have to make it right. The journal slipped from her fingers. The marriage, the money, the contract. It was never random. The front door opened. Richard wheeled in, stopping when he saw her face. Maya? She held up the journal, tears streaming down her cheeks. His face drained of color. I can explain. You saved me. Her voice broke. You saved my life, and it cost you everything. Maya, please. Why didn't you tell me? She was shouting now. Why let me think this was just business? Just some convenient arrangement? Richard's composure cracked. Because you never would have accepted, would you have married me knowing the truth? Knowing that every step you take is because I can't? That's not fair. None of this is fair. His voice echoed off the walls. You want to know why I didn't tell you? Because the guilt would have destroyed you. Because you would have stayed out of obligation, not choice. Because I couldn't bear to watch you look at me with pity every single day. Maya staggered back. So you lied? I gave you a choice. A real one, without the weight of knowing. I deserve to know. And I deserve to help you without it being a burden. He sucked in a breath. I researched you for months, watched you struggle, watched the bills pile up, all because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time and I made a choice. A choice that saved my life. A choice that ruined yours anyway. The debt, the jobs, the eviction. You survived the accident, but you weren't living. So yes, I found a way to give you money without charity, without pity. Was that so wrong? Silence crashed between them. You don't owe me anything, Richard said quietly. You never did. The money's yours regardless. The contract ends in 2 months. You're free. Maya's chest felt like it was caving in. Free? Yes. She looked at him, really looked, at the man who'd given up everything, his career, his mobility, his future for a stranger, who'd spent 3 years watching that stranger suffer and found a way to help without asking for anything back. I need time, she whispered. She ran to her room and locked the door. Maya didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, reliving every moment of the past 10 months. Richard's patience when she was cold, his understanding when she talked about her struggles, the way he'd never, not once, asked for gratitude, because he'd been carrying the guilt himself. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, bleeding out on a dark street, dying, and the man who'd risked everything to save her, the man who'd been paying the price ever since. Her phone buzzed, a text from the apartment broker. Place is yours if you want it. Need to know by tomorrow. She looked around her room, at the life she'd built here, the quiet mornings with coffee, The evening conversations, the way Richard smiled when she argued with him about books, the way she'd started to feel less like she was surviving and more like she was living. Not because of the money, because of him. Morning light filtered through the windows. Maya stood in the living room, two packed suitcases by her feet. Richard sat at the breakfast table, staring at his untouched coffee. "The money's in your account," he said without looking up. "Contracts fulfilled early. You're free to go." Maya's hand gripped her suitcase handle. "Thank you," Richard continued, his voice thick, "for giving me 10 months that didn't feel quite so empty, for making this place feel less like a tomb, for," he stopped, "for everything." She took a step toward the door, then another. Her hand touched the doorknob. She thought about the last 3 years, running from her past, drowning in debt, existing but not living. And Richard's 3 years, alone in this penthouse, believing he didn't deserve more, that his sacrifice meant he had to suffer in silence. Two people, broken by the same night, both surviving, neither truly living. "What if I don't want to go?" she whispered. Richard's head snapped up. "What?" Maya turned, tears on her cheeks. "What if I don't want to leave?" "Maya, you don't have to stay out of obligation." "What if it's not obligation?" She crossed to him, knelt beside his wheelchair. "What if I stay because the last 10 months have been the first time in 3 years I've felt alive? Because you see me as more than my scars and my past? Because you make me want to be more than just a survivor?" His eyes glistened. "You don't owe me your life." "I know. That's why I'm choosing to share it." Drop a like if you're feeling this story, and comment below, would you stay or go? 6 months later. "Come on, you can do it." 3 more steps. Richard gritted his teeth, sweat pouring down his face as he gripped the parallel bars. His legs shook with effort. 2 more, Maya encouraged from beside the physical therapist. 1 step. 2. He collapsed into the wheelchair, exhausted but grinning. "New record," the therapist announced. 8 steps. Maya handed him water. "Showing off?" "Always." They'd moved his therapy sessions to mornings, so Maya could attend before her classes. She'd enrolled in the teaching program she'd abandoned years ago. Richard had insisted. She'd argued. He'd won. In the evenings, they worked together, him consulting on medical research, her grading practice lesson plans at the kitchen table. Mail came, Richard said that night, holding an envelope. Maya opened it. Divorce papers. The contract's official end. They looked at each other. "We could sign them," Richard said carefully. "Make it official. Then what? Then maybe I could take you to dinner. Actually ask you properly." Maya laughed. "We've been married for 16 months and you want to date me?" "I want to do this right. No contracts, no obligations, just us." She ripped the papers in half. "Or we could skip straight to the part where we're honest about what this is." "And what is this?" Maya kissed him, soft and sure. "It's 2 people who saved each other." He pulled her closer. "I like that version better." They sat in the library later, Richard's old journal on the table between them. "I'm starting a new one," he said, opening a blank book. "Want to help me write it?" Maya picked up a pen. "What should the first entry say?" Richard smiled. "How about, today we stopped running from our past and started building our future." She wrote it down, her hand covering his. Outside the windows, the city lights blazed. Inside, 2 people who'd been broken by the same night finally began to heal. Together.